People used to fear curses the way we fear Wi-Fi outages, except theirs involved goats, eclipses, and neighbors who sneezed suspiciously. Humanity didn't just believe in magic, it panic-bought it. And trust me, the real madness is only just warming up. 1. People once believed curses traveled through shadows, which is adorable when you remember they also thought bathing was optional. Imagine living in a world where your biggest fear isn't disease, famine, or getting trampled by a horse. It's someone standing behind you at sunset and stepping on your shadow like they're playing supernatural hopscotch. Entire communities panicked because a neighbor briefly blocked the sun, and now, supposedly, your crops, marriage, and immune system are doomed. And the best part? The cure for this catastrophic shadow theft was usually to rub yourself in herbs, chant a rhyme, or ideally both while looking confused and terrified. Honestly, if survival depended on avoiding silhouettes, civilization should not have made it past the Bronze Age. 2. In medieval Europe, people genuinely believed witches could curse them by glancing too confidently. Not glaring, just looking a little too self-assured. So basically, the entire population was terrified of women with good posture. Imagine walking through town and making eye contact with someone for half a second longer than normal, and suddenly they're sprinting for holy water like you've performed a full-scale demonic TED Talk. Even worse, if a cow stopped producing milk or a kneecap hurt for more than 10 minutes, the nearest confident woman was immediately arrested. It's impressive, really. We invented the concept of a supernatural villain whose main ability was eye contact. That's not magic. That's social anxiety with a PR department. 3. In ancient Babylon, people were convinced a sneeze was a message from the gods, usually a bad one. So imagine every allergy season. Everyone is panicking like the apocalypse is trying to introduce itself through your sinuses. And heaven forbid you sneeze twice in a row. That was basically divine Morse code for "you're screwed." People carried charms, repeated prayers, and avoided looking at anyone sneezing like that person had committed treason with their nasal cavity. And if a king sneezed, entire political decisions were postponed, wars delayed, treaties paused, national destiny put on hold because someone inhaled a grain of dust the wrong way. Honestly, if I had known world power once hinged on pollen, I'd have taken botany much more seriously. 4. In parts of ancient China, people believed writing someone's name on a piece of paper and stabbing it could curse them, which means paper was basically the first weapon of mass destruction. Just imagine the stationery aisle holding the same fear factor as a medieval armory. If you annoyed the wrong person, they didn't shout, fight, or argue. Nope. They pulled out a brush, ink, and a fresh sheet of paper, and suddenly your fate depended on their calligraphy skills. Meanwhile, today we barely manage to write a grocery list without abandoning it halfway. Maybe that's for the best. If cursive handwriting had the power to ruin lives, every middle schooler failing penmanship would be on a global watch list. 5. In ancient Rome, people believed stepping on a crack really would break someone's back, mostly your mother's, because parental guilt was apparently universal even 2,000 years ago. Romans avoided cracks like they were landmines, because the moment your sandal touched a slightly crooked tile, you'd spend the rest of the day panicking that mom was suddenly horizontal. Of course, nothing actually happened, but that didn't stop entire roads from becoming traffic jams of superstition-fueled detours. The Romans built aqueducts, engineered concrete, and conquered Europe, yet a crooked sidewalk tile could mentally destroy them. And we wonder why the empire fell. 6. In medieval England, people feared elf shot, which was their explanation for any unexplained pain. You could sprain your ankle stepping off a curb, and instead of blaming gravity or footwear, everyone would start whispering that invisible elves had finally decided to take you out. And these weren't cute cookie-baking elves. These were tiny, airborne assassins specializing in sneaky drive-by curses. The cure? Burning herbs and chanting while staring suspiciously at the air, hoping the elf responsible felt guilty and left. Imagine going to a medieval clinic with back pain, and the doctor says, "Ah yes, classic airborne elf activity. Drink this tea and apologize to any trees you've wronged." Truly, medical innovation at its peak. 7. Many ancient cultures believed yawning allowed evil spirits to enter your body, which explains why everyone walked around covering their mouths like they were permanently shocked. Today, yawning just means you're tired. Back then, it meant Satan had spotted an unlocked window. People invented elaborate rules to avoid demonic break-ins, covering your mouth, looking at the ground, or reciting a prayer mid-yawn like you're trying to perform exorcism karaoke. Imagine an entire village panicking because someone yawned too wide, and now everyone thinks they're possessed. Honestly, if spirits could enter through yawning, most office workers would be fully haunted by 10 a.m. 8. In ancient Egypt, people believed cats could absorb curses, which explains why cats have spent thousands of years looking bored. Egyptians saw cats as furry little magical shields, absorbing negative energy with the same enthusiasm they use today to ignore your existence. If someone suspected a curse, they'd simply spend more time with their cat, assuming the animal would soak up the supernatural fallout like some kind of mystical sponge. Meanwhile, the cat is sitting there thinking only about food, sleep, and the next opportunity to knock. A valuable object off a table. If cats really absorbed human curses, every modern cat would be a glowing orb of dark energy by now. 9. The Vikings believed certain runes could curse enemies by ruining their luck, which is hilarious coming from people whose hobbies included storming foreign coasts in wooden boats during gale season. Imagine trusting a carved stick to curse your enemy while simultaneously engaging in real-world activities far more likely to get you killed. They'd carve a rune, spit on it for emphasis, and suddenly believe the gods were about to sabotage someone's fishing trip. Meanwhile, they're out on the ocean in a glorified wooden salad bowl, risking frostbite, drowning, and axe wounds because superstition said the gods favored the bold. If anyone needed better luck, it was definitely them. 10. In some medieval towns, people believed hair clippings could be used to curse you. So barbers became the Middle Ages version of confidential data handlers. They swept up hair like it was radioactive waste, stored it in locked boxes, and sometimes burned it in the town square to prevent magical identity theft. Imagine going in for a trim and leaving with the uneasy feeling that your stylist now possesses enough material to ruin your life. And we think data privacy issues started with the internet. No, humans have always panicked about someone stealing a tiny piece of them and using it to magically make their crops fail. Honestly, hair salons deserve more credit for keeping civilization curse-free. 11. In ancient India, people believed swallowing a gemstone could protect you from curses, which is basically the world's most dangerous vitamin routine. People would gulp down sapphires, rubies, pearls, whatever shiny rock looked the most curse-proof that day. And a lot of these gems were the size of actual marbles. Imagine willingly swallowing jewelry because someone said it would protect your soul like a sparkly digestive bodyguard. The only real curse was the medical aftermath, because spoiler alert, there is no gentle way for a ruby to exit the human body. If curses were real, the gem would protect you. If curses weren't real, the gem-related injury absolutely would not. 12. In ancient Greece, people believed the evil eye could ruin your life simply because someone envied your success, which means being likable was literally a medical hazard. If your neighbor saw you with a slightly nicer goat, congratulations, you were now spiritually doomed. The solution was wearing a charm shaped like a giant eyeball, which essentially announced to everyone, "Please don't blast me with your jealousy laser." And imagine the social anxiety in a world where being complimented was basically a threat. Nice tunic felt less like praise and more like, "I hope your crops die." Honestly, Greece didn't need a pantheon of gods. Envy alone ran the whole show. 13. In Japan, the belief in ikitsunetsuki, fox possession, meant people blamed fox spirits for everything from bad behavior to bad luck. If someone acted weird, didn't want to work, or started making odd faces, people didn't assume burnout or personality. Nope. A fox was living rent-free in their soul. Exorcists were hired, ceremonies performed, and sometimes the person was forced to eat rice until they puked, because apparently that encouraged the fox to move out. Meanwhile, actual foxes were just trying to exist in forests while humans blamed them for every domestic inconvenience. If foxes could talk, they'd probably file a massive defamation lawsuit against the entire country. 14. In early Slavic cultures, people believed whistling indoors summoned evil spirits, which means the average household lived in terror of someone accidentally recreating a tune from sheer boredom. One wrong whistle, and suddenly your family is scrambling for charms, holy symbols, and anyone who could chant aggressively enough to scare off the problem. It's a miracle any musician born in that region survived childhood without being exiled for practicing scales. Imagine trying to explain to a medieval parent that you weren't summoning demons. You were just trying to whistle badly on purpose, like every kid ever. Honestly, if spirits could be summoned by whistling, every theme park would be a gateway to hell. 15. Polynesian cultures once believed certain people had tapu, a sacred power, meaning touching their belongings could curse you, which is an amazing excuse not to lend anything to anyone. Imagine someone asking to borrow your tools and you just say, "Sorry, divine energy, you'll die." People believed even eating near a tapu person could doom you, so entire communities rearranged themselves to avoid accidentally borrowing supernatural germs. Meanwhile, the person with tapu is just trying to mind their business while everyone treats them like a nuclear reactor. If this system existed today, every introvert would absolutely abuse it. And honestly, who could blame them? 16. In ancient Mesopotamia, people believed a curse could sneak into your life simply because you accidentally said the wrong word on the wrong day. Basically, the first recorded version of being canceled, except the universe did it instead of Twitter. If you slipped up and said something unlucky, people didn't just shrug. They performed full-scale rituals involving water, chanting, clay figurines, and the kind of anxious energy usually reserved for someone deleting a text mid-send. Imagine telling your neighbor, "Nice weather," only to be informed that today is the day of unspoken breeze acknowledgement and you've just cursed your household for 7 generations. The cure involved washing your mouth, literally, with sacred water, as if the gods functioned like a magical HR department penalizing linguistic errors. Honestly, the fact that civilization survived long, enough for writing to exist, is a miracle in itself. 17. In medieval Italy, people believed a curse could cling to you if a pregnant woman looked at you funny, because nothing says solid scientific reasoning like assuming expectant mothers are walking curse dispensers. If a woman craved something she couldn't get and saw you holding it, congratulations, you were now infected with bad luck by proximity. People treated pregnant women like ticking magical grenades, polite, careful, and deeply terrified. There were entire etiquette rules about what foods you couldn't eat in front of them, what objects you couldn't touch around them, and what expressions you weren't allowed to make because apparently your face could accidentally doom someone's unborn child. Honestly, I respect pregnant women, but if I lived back then, I'd probably flee the village every time someone announced they were expecting. 18. In West African folklore, people believed witches could steal your soul by capturing your reflection in water, which meant everyone avoided still ponds like they held exclusive backstage passes to the afterlife. Imagine going for a casual drink from a river and suddenly panicking because your own reflection blinked weirdly. Entire communities built their water rituals around not accidentally locking eyes with themselves. It wasn't about hygiene. It was about not losing your spirit to a mirror you didn't ask for. The superstition got so elaborate that certain tribes built special water jugs and ceremonial paths to avoid reflections entirely. Meanwhile, today we willingly check our faces in front-facing cameras every 5 minutes like we're daring demons to try something. 19. In medieval Germany, people believed a curse could be placed by burying a fish under someone's doorstep. Basically, the original version of passive-aggressive home decor. Imagine waking up one morning, stepping outside and discovering that someone's idea of ruining your life involved a decomposing trout. No one questioned the smell or the flies. They questioned which neighbor had the audacity to unleash aquatic vengeance. And if your luck went sour, your cow stopped producing milk, your bread burned, your spouse sighed too loudly. Everyone concluded the fish burial had worked. The counter-curse ceremony involved digging up the fish, scolding it like it was personally responsible, and burning herbs that made your yard smell like someone had combined a barbecue with a seance. It's no wonder medieval towns had so many feuds. Nothing strengthens neighborhood rivalry like surprise seafood magic. 20. In ancient Arabia, people believed curses could hide inside knots, which made tying string a surprisingly dangerous sport. Knot magic was a real thing. Tie a cord with malicious intent, whisper a curse into the loops, and release it into the world like a homemade packet of doom. It made sewing risky, knitting practically forbidden, and sailors the most suspiciously powerful people alive. Imagine giving someone a scarf and watching them look at it like you just handed them a biological weapon. Rituals sprang up to untie knots with extreme caution, burning them afterward to release any trapped spirits, because obviously ghosts are sensitive to fiber structure. If modern gift wrapping had this reputation, every birthday would require a priest and industrial scissors. 21. In rural Scotland, people believed witches could curse butter during churning season, which sounds stupid until you realize they also believed the butter could scream when it was attacked. Farmers guarded their churns like they were safeguarding national secrets, terrified that a jealous neighbor would slip a curse into the dairy supply. If the butter didn't thicken properly, they didn't blame temperature or technique, they blamed invisible magic sabotage. The cure was to heat a horseshoe in the fire and toss it into the churn, as if scalding metal was the obvious solution for improving dairy texture. Honestly, the fact that Scotland still eats butter is proof that determination can overcome even supernatural dairy warfare. 22. In India, certain villages believed curses could hitch a ride on wind gusts, meaning people treated breezes like they were suspicious strangers. A sudden gust wasn't refreshing, it was a supernatural drive-by. If the wind blew from the wrong direction, everyone immediately covered their heads, muttered counter-charms, or ducked behind walls like the atmosphere itself was hunting them. Entire farming seasons were delayed because the wind felt cursed that day. And if a dust devil spun near your home, oh, that was a full emergency requiring charms, bells, and sometimes an entire family shouting aggressively at the tornado like it owed them rent. Scientists today could explain airflow, but honestly, if I lived back then, I'd just move underground. 23. Some Caribbean traditions believed curses could be hidden inside shoes left outside overnight, which is honestly fair. Shoes are already cursed after a long day. Leaving footwear out gave evil spirits the perfect opportunity to crawl inside and turn your next morning into a supernatural ambush. People shook their shoes vigorously before putting them on, not to remove spiders, but to evict ghosts. If your day went wrong, if you tripped, stubbed your toe, or spilled something, it was because you didn't check your shoes carefully enough. Meanwhile, today we leave shoes everywhere, and the only curse we get is stepping on a rogue Lego at 2 a.m., which honestly feels worse than anything spirits could have managed. 24. In ancient Jewish folklore, people believed curses could be transmitted through names, which meant giving your child a safe name was more important than giving them a normal one. Entire families avoided certain words because speaking them could accidentally summon trouble. Some people even invented secret names no one else was allowed to hear, basically the ancient version of having a password for your own soul. If someone cursed your name, you didn't confront them. You changed your name, moved towns, or invented a whole new identity. It was witness protection without the witnesses. Frankly, anyone who's ever tried to reinvent themselves on social media should appreciate how hard our ancestors committed to branding. 25. In Aztec culture, people believed curses could be delivered through breath, meaning talking to the wrong person at the wrong time was basically a hazardous gas leak. Shamans were trained to blow curses or blessings onto objects, into faces, or across a room like they were weaponizing air. Imagine getting into an argument and instead of shouting, the other person just exhales dramatically, and suddenly you're spiritually doomed. The counter magic involved inhaling scented smoke, chanting, or rinsing your mouth with herbs in hopes of neutralizing airborne negativity. If modern curses worked like this, every office argument would require respirators and HR-approved incense. 26. In medieval France, people believed curses could be baked into bread, proof that carbs have always been dangerous. Baking wasn't just a kitchen task, it was a spiritual minefield. If your loaf rose weirdly or cracked the wrong way, you didn't assume humidity or yeast issues. You assumed someone hexed your dough. Bakers were basically early chemists mixed with neighborhood therapists, constantly reassuring clients that their baguette wasn't cursed. To reverse a bread curse, people burned the crust, waved it over smoke, or fed it to animals to transfer the curse. I'd feel bad for the animals, but honestly, medieval livestock already had enough problems. 27. In Siberian shamanic traditions, people believed curses could attach to footprints, which is a huge inconvenience when the entire environment is one giant canvas of snow. Shamans would track curses by following footprints like they were tracking magical crimes. If someone disliked you, they could stomp around your home and ruin your destiny with one good stomp. Snow became a landmine field of potential bad luck, so people walked carefully, brushed behind themselves, and sometimes smoothed the ground after each step like paranoid Roombas. Today we leave messy footprints everywhere and call it going for a hike. Back then, every step was a geopolitical decision. 28. In ancient Japan, people believed a curse could be created by drawing a doll, writing your enemy's name on it, and hammering nails into it at midnight, which is honestly just arts and crafts therapy gone rogue. This ritual, called Ushi no Toki Mayuri, turned shrines into midnight hardware stores. Imagine hearing hammering at 2 a.m. and thinking, "Ah yes, someone's cursing their boss again." Participants wore white, disheveled hair and iron rings, because nothing enhances your magic like looking like you've survived a horror movie. If someone suspected you cursed them, the evidence was literally nailed into a tree for everyone to see. It's basically emo voodoo with public receipts. 29. In various African traditions, people believed curses could be sent through the ground via footprints filled with special powders. If someone wanted to hex you, they'd sprinkle curse ingredients where you were likely to walk, because apparently even the dirt had opinions about your future. If you stepped in it, that was it. Spiritual doom achieved. People developed entire strategies for stepping carefully, washing their feet, or avoiding certain paths. And if you had bad luck, everyone blamed mysterious powders instead of the more likely culprit, living in a world without basic sanitation. Honestly, it's impressive how creative humans get when trying to ruin each other. 30. In ancient Persian cultures, people believed curses could travel through hair length, essentially equating split ends with spiritual vulnerability. Long hair made you more susceptible to certain magical attacks, so people trimmed it ritually, as if the barber was doubling as a spiritual mechanic. Kings and nobles kept strict grooming schedules to avoid becoming curse magnets. Imagine being afraid that your bangs would invite negative energy. Washing, braiding, and oiling weren't just self-care. They were anti-curse protocols. Meanwhile, today we cut our hair because we're bored at 2 a.m., which honestly might be the real curse. 31. In rural Eastern European folklore, people believed curses could hide in yawning graves, meaning newly dug burial sites were considered magical sinkholes for misfortune. People walked around cemeteries like they were tiptoeing past sleeping dragons. If you accidentally stepped too close to an open grave, that wasn't bad luck. It was a spiritual quicksand that could swallow your fortune, your health, or your future children. The cure involved throwing salt, spitting 3 times, and sometimes circling the grave backward like you were performing an interpretive dance of regret. Honestly, given how terrifying old cemeteries looked, I'd probably have invented a few rules just to justify running away faster. Humanity really spent centuries losing fistfights to imaginary curses, and somehow we're still doing fine. Tell me the dumbest one below. And if you survive this chaos, you know what to click next.